Anyway, so tell me, what made you choose a legal career?
It's a really interesting one. And, I always emphasize that young lawyers listening to this should certainly not model how I ended up in a legal career on themselves nowadays, because things are very different when I went to university, and I'm really mindful of and I use these words in inverted commas, privilege, because it's an overused word. And I think we now collectively need to rethink, recurate, and be mindful of what it means, right? And one of the big privileges of being at university last century when I went was that it was free. Of course, rent wasn't, but there were grants still available, and certainly no tuition fees. So I left university with £1,000 worth of debt, thinking I'm never going to pay it back. Well, the average young barrister, and they're not all necessarily young in the traditional sense now because of the academic and professional hoops they have to jump through before even applying, is in £50,000 to £70,000 worth of debt. It's a sobering thought. Now, I throw it clear in that way because I don't want people to think, oh, I'll just do what Rob did, which was, I didn't think of becoming a barrister, really. I went to university really following my academic mentor at sixth form college, who I just was madly in love with. Academics, the first person that ever thought I was, intelligent. And it completely changed my relationship with learning in a really significant way. Up until that point, I'd been, kind of swimming above average, but not especially clever, and certainly not intellectually engaged in any serious sense whatsoever. And she had one of those moments that sometimes the game-changing teachers do, where they effortlessly change the chemistry around you by looking at you and going, I think you're quite clever. And, had a me moment. And that really radically changed everything. And I was going to wait a year because I could have gone to Oxford to read English. But my mentor had gone to Manchester to do politics and modern history. So that's where I was going. Also, Manchester in the 90s was cool. People went there. I'm confident you'll remember, this is a time that it was the end of the party, but the hacienda was happening. I wasn't going there. I was too party like it's 1899, but it was, culturally really a kind of great place to go and live and be a student. And I just took the sort of academic life really seriously and got involved in debating. I got involved with debating, and that was really significant because everybody in debating, it turned out, into varsity, into tournament debating between other universities, tournament debating where you would compete against other universities. The traditional trajectory would, if you were good at it, and my debating partner and I just happened to get good at it quite quickly, ended up going to the bar. So I thought, well, I'll go and do that then. I mean, it really wasn't kind of more mindful than that, the sort of series of events surrounding me that kind of, if you like, channeled me in that way. I certainly knew I wanted to be an advocate. I wanted to be on my feet. I'd like to be arguing on behalf of people. And I suppose there was an other element around me, which was that I knew it might give me I was more confident it might give me a regular income. And coming from a Jewish background and a working class one, despite the way I sound, people, I sound like I'd been mugged by a Mitford, but that was my own special creation from the age of 7. No one where I live sounds like I do. And I think it was easier to tell my mum and family I was going to be, a gay barrister than being a gay actor or a gay playwright, and very likely to be thinking meaningfully about being unemployed. I was the first person in my family to go to university, right? So the bar it was, and I got in because I took university very seriously, and I'd got a first, and I loved the academic life, and I'd done all this debating, so I jumped through hoops and got into pupillage. Again, it was much easier when I did it. Now some of my mentorees, are up against 400 to 500 other applicants. Wasn't like that in my day, etc. And it wasn't until I really started working, I knew I wanted to be a criminal barrister, instinctively or intuitively, because I sort of felt I probably wanted to be somebody that stood between the individual and the state, the power of it. But I wasn't kind of powerfully motivated in that way, as young people now, people coming to bar, really have to be imbued with that sense of mission. I just wanted to be an advocate, really, and do trials. And knew I wanted to have a job where I was speaking to people and on behalf of people, especially those with less privilege than me. And it's kind of a series of collection, if you like, of incoherent ideas, but not one driving force. And then gradually over the years, I took on more serious cases. I drew the dots between the work I was doing and my grandfather's story, who, as you know, is a Holocaust survivor, and realized that the rule of law really mattered, that the work I was doing, defending those who have the least access to power, and being that voice on those communities or those individuals' behalves, really did not just matter, but it mattered to me in a way which was kind of elemental. That when you've been alongside or been brought up with somebody who touched the face of tyranny, who knew what it was not to live in the rule of law, where the power of the state could remove individual liberty capriciously or for no other purpose, that standing on your hind legs in front of a judge of the power of the state for that individual was everything. And so I only really got that driving, if you like, purpose, that sense of kind of, if you like, the kind of ethical fuel to carry on after I'd already started. I hadn't even seen a full trial by the time I started doing my own trials. And that's not really possible nowadays. That was 20 years ago, 21 years ago.